Alright, so I just feel like I have to get a couple or a few things off my chest. Um, but I want to have a light heart. So I'm wearing this for two reasons. So that I can have a light heart because it's ridiculous and now I'm silly and that's fine. I'm a silly person, obviously. And I need to remind myself that I'm silly. It's I admit it has a small, it has a modicum of bling factor. Fine. What's wrong with that too? Right? This is how I get sexy. This is normal me. This is my version of sexy. Sorry. You gotta work with what you got. Anyway. It only accidentally fits on my head, which is part of the reason why I love it. And all these little green marks right here, that's where I'm labeling points because I'm trying to figure out if this object fits perfectly flat on a plane. So really what I'm trying to do is to get to a couple points in here and to get to this point, right? Yeah, I'm trying to get to this point, and this point. Also the bisector of this point and this point, which is like right here, which should share one, like in the XYZ 3-coordinate value system, this point and this point they'll have different Z values, but they should have the same X and Y values. And then these 2 points should have the same Z value. So if you're into XYZ stuff, which a lot of people are, engineers, architects, whatever, then maybe you get what I'm trying to say. So that would essentially create a 90-degree angle right here. I'd be able to find the center point. It would mean that then that also you could flip this object below itself and it would create a perfect circle. Though I've also created another object that I've shown before where 3 of these rings can be combined together. So when I'm wearing the, yeah, and here I'm on, because I'm trying to prove this and I'm like halfway to where I need to get to. I'm like halfway there. I have a couple more green points I have to put on here. So now I'm on page 87. And what I love about this is no matter how far I go, it's the simplest process. It's a little bit of algebra and a little bit of geometry, just like the littlest bit. The hardest part about this whole process is just doing the number calculations, because there isn't a sufficient geometry that I'm aware of that deals with this object in a way that's easier. So I have 87 pages of shit that looks like this. And of course I have a ways to go on this page, but like I have 87 pages of shit that looks like this, but it's just these numerators and denominators keep getting bigger. The thing is, when I have all these XYZ numbers, but like on all the important ones that I'm measuring, whenever I do an X squared plus a Y squared plus a Z squared, I get a number and I take its square root. And it's always either 1/3, or I'm sorry, square root of 3 over 3, or the square root of 6 over 3, or 1. With infinite resolution. What do I mean? I mean, it's perfect. As perfect as numbers can represent in the simplest way possible that the most people in the world understand. And it has infinite precision. There might be a better way of thinking about it. There might be a better way to display the pattern behind the precision. Different base shifts different base systems than base 10 is going to reveal something a little different. And then also the concept of like shifting base systems or exponential base systems. Something like the Richter scale. Like a base system that is a little bit like the Richter scale, this exponential base system. That would say something different. All of them show different patterns. What's the best way to talk about numbers? Part of the problem is the linearity of language. And mathematics as a language is written mostly linearly, though there are interesting geometric modifications of the lingua, as well as rigorous and like a maturely developed, rigorous geometrical study. And by rigorous, I mean you're not only drawing lines and circles, this, that, whatever. Not like Kandinsky, which, you know, I'm not saying Kandinsky wasn't a rigorous geometer. I'm just saying he isn't known, well, he might be known, but he's not popularly known as like a rigorous mathematical geometrician. He's mostly known as an aesthetic among the artistic masses. Is it geometrician or geometrician? Kandinsky, the artist. I actually met a guy who was like famous, well, in Ivy League schools. In Ivy League schools where German people study Kandinsky. In Ivy League schools in America, he's a renowned Kandinsky scholar. And also he was an expert on Heinrich Heine, something like that, the poet. And yeah, a couple years ago, I think he's in his 80s. Anyway, he was a really nice guy. He gave me a bunch of art books. Pretty much repainted the entirety of the inside of his house. Me and another guy I work with, we basically painted the entire inside of their house over a winter. Over the better part of a winter. Late part of a winter. And they were good people. Him and his wife. They had so many books. But they threw away a bunch of books, but they'd give me these piles every day. They'd be like, take whatever book you want. There'd be like 20 books, I'd take 2, you know. But they do that day after day after day. By the end of it, I had this huge stack of books. I thought this would be a good name for a podcast, right? I like titles. Titles are my favorite book. Because I buy all these books, or I receive all these books, I get all these books and they have a title. And most books I get, most books I own, most books I buy with my own money. You know, my favorite books are trade paperback books, right? $15, big, easy to hold on to. Yeah, you can't stuff it in your back pocket, but now we got phones to put in our back pocket. So now instead of paperback books being the thing, trade paperback, man. Fuck hardcover, right? Hey, how about this? Trump says he's getting rid of the penny. I don't want to get rid of the penny. I actually want to keep the penny. Yang said he wanted to get rid of the penny. And I remember Whoopi Goldberg I'm just thinking of The View. That was just like a Freudian slip of some sort. So only Rosie O'Donnell, uh, but I remember she was Whoopi Goldberg, who I love Whoopi Goldberg, man, because, well, she made Sister Act 1 and 2. I don't care who the fuck you are. I love Sister Act 1. I love Sister Act 2. I think they're great fucking movies. A lot of people like Jumpin' Jack Flash. I've only watched it once. I think I need to watch it again before I can appreciate it. But Burglar was fucking awesome. With Jim Colway, I love that fucking movie. The first time I watched it, which actually, well, not the first time, but the first time in a long time that I watched it was like 5 years ago. And I watched it like 5 times in a row. I was just like, this movie is great. Sister Act, I've watched a lot. I think that Color Purple, man. Color Purple is one of the best movies ever made. Color Purple, yeah, man. The Color Purple is the best movie since Gone with the Wind. Or no, yeah, Gone with the Wind and The Sound of Music. No, not The Sound of Music. Something else must be. But yeah, since Gone with the Wind, Color Purple, that was a great movie, man. Everybody knows it. There's other awesome shit Whoopi did too. And all the stuff she did with Billy Crystal and Robin Williams. Something relief. Comic relief. Who knows where the money went, but as a young person, as a kid, seeing that type of positive encouragement or goodwill, seeing that type of goodwill, we need more not bipartisan, nonpartisan goodwill. Because people are always talking about red versus blue. And people keep talking about bipartisanship. Like, oh, we got to be bipartisan about some shit. No. Well, yes, we need to be bipartisan about some shit. But we also need to be nonpartisan about some shit. Nonpartisan. Just an idea. But yeah, what I was trying to get to with these numbers is that it's so awesome. Like, look at this number, right? Let's see if I can get it all in there. 4,777 over 19,683 squared plus 17,206 square root of 3 over 177,147 squared plus 35,879 square root of 6 over 177,147 squared. It sounds bonkers and wild. The thing is, once you do all the calculations, that thing adds up to 1 over 3. And then when you get the square root of it, you get the square root of 3 over 3, which is, if you have a tetrahedron inscribed in a sphere, and that tetrahedron has side lengths of 1, or the lines. There are 6 lines that make up a 4-sided planar object known as a tetrahedron, and if all of those lengths of the edges equals 1, then from the center point of any given triangle to any of the vertex vertices of that triangle, the length is square root of 3 over 3. So that's what I'm calculating here. And it's just so awesome that all those thousands and thousands of numbers all come down to 1/3. Take the square root of that, you get the square root of 3 over 3, bang. And I got 87 pages of this stupid shit. And at first it was like, this is going to take forever, but I started last June. I'm halfway there, and I still don't know if it's going to be correct, because a lot of weird shit happens, like near misses. A lot of near misses happen in geometry, but this is so beautiful and so perfect. And if it's true, if it's true, I have discovered one of the most beautiful things in the world. Like, Albrecht, like, if this thing actually is what I think it is, then, and this is, I found it kind of by, I mean, I've done a lot of kind of hard work in my spare time on things I really love that are just seemingly like don't have anything to do with anything. But like, if this thing is what I think it is, like Albrecht Dürer would have loved it. Kierkegaard would have loved it. Schopenhauer would have loved it. Da Vinci would have loved it. Aristotle would have loved it. Pythagoras would have loved it. And my greatest, well, one of my greatest heroes, Norm Wildberger, would love it. If it's not perfect mathematically, then it's just something I found in this weird and bendy world whose rules I don't understand. Now, if it is what I think it is or what I think it might be, I still don't know. But to prove an order beyond my understanding, I can't really describe what feeling that would bring in me. I would be able to just shed so many scales, just go. I don't know why. You know, one of the things is when we pray to God for relief, but it's a two-way street. People don't realize that. Every answered prayer is also an issue. When God answers a prayer, God also presents an issuance. God always issues an order upon the answering of a prayer. To be healed by God is a heavy burden. You just don't go back to what you were before. Even though you try like hell. Ask me how I know. God is going to push you down that runway. God's going to push you down that runway. This is how it seems. I'm not saying this is how it is. I'm saying this is how it seems. This is how feels to me, God is going to push you down that fucking runway. And if you don't get your wings up, God's pushing you down that runway. Heaven is pulling you toward it. If you don't get your flaps up, you're not taking off. If you don't get your mind up, if you don't will it up, if you don't pull back on that stick, you're not going up. So when God starts pushing, you have to pull up, I think. The alternative is, once God starts pushing, God does not stop, and you prayed for it. You asked for it, you prayed for it, you know you fucking did. How do I know you did it? 'Cause I did it. And I'm different than you, but I ain't that different than you, right? Maybe, I don't know. I'm just kind of talking to myself and you. But you're either pulling back or you're pushing forward. God's pushing you down the runway, and you're either going to go up or you're going to go down. You're going to drive your jet plane nose into the ground, and you're going to plow up that earth. You're going to plow up that asphalt. You're going to plow up the whole goddamn runway. You got 15,000 million, billion, gazillion fucking planes behind you waiting to take off after you to see if you can do it. And if you don't pull up, all those motherfuckers are going into the hole that you're going to dig. You're digging a hole. God's pushing you down the runway. You either pull up or you push down. You're either plowing dirt, digging the hole for those 15 million, billion, gazillion people behind you to drop down into, or you're pulling it up, bringing everybody else up with you. If you can't find the rising tide, be the rising tide, right? The rising tide lifts all boats. I don't know, maybe that's one way of talking about it. I was on my way to work today. I was at one job and my boss came to my job. He came to my job a couple times today, but, well, it's his job, but, you know, the one I'm working on. Spearheading for the moment, so to speak. And he took me to another job that I hate. We had kind of a fight. Not really a fight. It was more like me being an asshole and going off on him one day about how much I hated the job. And I did this thing. It was kind of like, mostly I paint, but sometimes I full finish. So I did this full finish thing for this job, and I also painted for the job. And I basically told him, like, I'm never going back there, ever. But there was still a lot more to do. So I coached him through the full finish process, and he did an okay job. And I coached another guy I work with through the process, and I thought he did an okay job, but the customer wasn't quite happy. Apparently she wanted me there, but I hate her. I hate her husband. I hate her dog. I hate her kids. I hate the contractor. I hate the subcontractors. I hate everything about the fucking job. I hate the drywallers. I hate the floor guys. I hate everybody there. I hate every fucking buddy there. And I hate the way they work together. I hate the way they don't work together. I hate the architects. I hate the designer. I hate the other designer. There's like 5 fucking designers on this fucking job, and the houses look stupid. And they're spending goddamn millions of dollars. And they only ask my opinion at the end of the process. When I could I could have told them how to save. I guarantee. Now, I don't know everything. I'm not a good, but on this particular job, knowing what I see, that's the thing. Hindsight's always 2020, right? But on that particular job, if I could go back in time, I could have told them exactly what to do to save like 80% of the money and get 50% better results. It's the dumbest. It's not the dumbest. I've been on some dumb fucking jobs, but it's one of the dumbest jobs I've ever seen. People are crazy, and people with money are crazy. Sometimes they just do the dumbest shit. The people who have money that don't deserve it, they're the ones who do the dumbest shit. Some of them pretend to have these little businesses, but really they're just siphoning money off their trust funds and shit. Some of them don't even pretend. They just sit around in their house watching CNBC and fucking bitching at each other. But yeah, I was just joking because I was bitching about this job. Just like I just did. I try not to do that. And actually, I said all that shit, but like, I don't hate these people. It's just like, the frustration isn't worth it. Shit rolls downhill. Like, there I am at the bottom of the pile at the end of the process after they've already spent all their money on insulation and drywallers and blah, 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 and this and that. Everybody's frustrated there for some reason. It's just a vibe. Every job has a vibe. That's one of the things, man. It's like haunted houses or this or that. Every job has a vibe. And it's not only about the space, it's about the space and the time. Because some places are haunted yesterday, but not tomorrow. And some places are haunted tomorrow, but not yesterday. Hauntings go in and out of each other. Ghosts move from house to house. What? It happens. But every job has a vibe. And different people vibrate differently with some of the jobs I hate, my boss loves. But some of the jobs I hate, my boss hates. And some of the jobs I love, my boss hates. But we're always like, we're pretty simpatico, or at least, yeah, he just gave me a big raise. Even though, to my mind, I didn't deserve it, but I thanked him for it, and he just walked out the door. He was like, well, you earned it. He doesn't like to talk about that shit, but I couldn't not thank him. But anyway, I was bitching about this customer, but that's the thing, man. The buck stops with him. He signs the paychecks, but he also writes the bills. So for me, like, I basically refused to work on this job ever again. One day I just blew up at him and I'm like, and I also said some bad shit about like people in his family. Like I just cleared out the bank of like 10 years of being frustrated with jobs where I thought people were fucked. But he was really, really cool about it. He's like the big brother I never had, you know? But anyway, I was totally shitting on this job like I just have been doing. And, but then I was like, you know, I was like, well, kind of saying what I'm saying now. Like, I don't really hate these people. Like, I wish them well, you know, this or that. But it's just, I get triggered for whatever reason. The combination of, you know, the cosmological combinations that hit me in my heart when I'm on this job. I'm automatically at 11 as soon as I pull in the driveway, you know. You need to start your day at about 4. You need to go up to about 7 or 8. And then you need to bring it down to 5. And at the end of the day, you need to wind it down to 2. But as soon as I drive in this driveway, for whatever reason, it's my triggers, it's my problem, it's my fault. I'm at 11. Now, to give myself credit, my boss, who pretty much lives at 6, between 4 and 6, my boss lives between 4 and 6. But when he turns it to 8, like my 11, oh, his 11, we'd all be dead. But he never goes past 8. But when he gets to 7, run for cover. But I was bitching about this job, and I was like, I'm going to hell, So, like, I don't mean nothing on these people. Like, I'm going to burn in hell. And he's like, oh, you're a good guy. You don't have it in you, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, I'm a bad person. He didn't say it like that. But got me thinking. And so here I am, 31 minutes in. That was my preface. I'm the preface writer. I prefer prefaces to the point. Instead of making a 1-page preface to a 30-page book, I'm going to write a 30-page preface to a 1-page book. What I got to thinking about, because I was like talking to my boss, I'm like, no, I mean, we talk. It was like I don't know, maybe a 17-minute drive, give or take. About a 17-minute drive. So we just talked the whole way, this, that, whatever. So obviously a lot was said, But the gist of what got me thinking was, when I was bitching about these people, but I feel bad about it, but I have a sense of humor about it, but I mean it too, and it's just... But also, I admitted to him, like, I made some mistakes along the way because I was feeling like kind of pressure, like, sometimes designers and architects can kind of like use their clout to kind of pressure you a little bit, and you also don't want to make them look bad, but like, I know more about material than they do. So when they tell me to do this or do that in like a full finish sense, and I used to be more of a faux finisher, like I got into painting through faux finishing, but it seems like they're kind of like similar professions, but they're not. And to be like, there's a lot of great painters and there's a lot of great faux finishers. But like, you gotta be both. To be a great faux finisher, you also have to be a great painter. But you don't have to be a great faux finisher to be a great painter. And most faux finishers aren't great painters. But now, and I'm not even saying I'm a great painter, but I'm a pretty darn good painter. Pretty darn good. And I don't like doing faux finish anymore. I hate it. And one of the reasons I hate it is because the people I do faux finishing for are bonkers. You're nuts. In one way. Everybody thinks they're a fucking artist. When like really simple classical principles are the best. Simple, ergonomic, elegant, long-lasting, well-built, and well-protected. Painting is protection, and it must be well-protected. Well-preserved, easy to maintain, straightforward to maintain. But anyway, yeah, I was bitching about these customers, and then I thought to myself, I was saying, like, I'm such a piece of shit, you know? So I'm going to hell. So I don't mean to degrade these people. I'm just saying how I feel about it. That's more or less, I guess that's the gist. That's not exactly the way I said it, but that's the gist. I was just trying to be like, but it got me to thinking about going to hell, paying the price. I've made a lot of videos about the idea of like that hell isn't what we think hell is, because the one thing that hell has over maybe the river Styx as a reference point, because we think of hell, we think of purgatory, and we think of heaven in a quote unquote Judeo Christian sense, maybe in an Abrahamic sense, but we think of heaven, hell, purgatory. But those aren't the only options. Eternal suffering is better than being erased. That's the one philosophical point that doesn't get spoken about. Suffering in eternity is better than being obliterated, erased. No more soul, no more identity, no more memory, no more accountability. Because that's the thing, if you do not exist anymore, none of your sins matter. The purpose of hell is to preserve you even though you have sinned. Even though you have sinned, you have not forgiven yourself, you've not been forgiven, however it goes, however you ended up there, you care. You hate yourself for the sins you've done. You've done so many bad things, and you hate yourself for the bad things you've done. Well, then you go to hell. If you've done the same bad things and you don't give a fuck, literally, like not just act like you don't give a fuck, but you legitimately, you know, in that dark midnight hour or whatever, you really don't care. Like I'm a heathen who suffers from hedonism. But like, I feel bad about it. I still do it. I'm still a sinner. I'm a terrible person. I'm going to burn in hell. Burn, 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 motherfucking burn, dry ice, burn. But at least I'll be serving my sentence. I didn't serve the world. I was guilty of crimes against myself, against my brethren, my sisters, against God and Mary. But I will serve my sentence. I will suffer for eternity, regretting, praying. The one virtue of Satan. This is a tough one. And it's just something to think about. Sorry. Gotta be light. Gotta be funny. I'm just talking. Most of y'all motherfuckers don't even believe in God and Satan anyway. You sure the fuck don't believe in archangels. You sure the fuck don't believe in leprechauns. But you're gonna talk about aliens! The aliens! What if I told you I've met aliens I've met archangels. I've met leprechauns. I've met the Illuminati. Star Wars. It's just different things. Different fish in the ocean. I ate a fish. Which fish? Which fish? Fish look very different. Freshwater fish, saltwater fish. There's a lot of fish. You know, if you met a demon, how would you know it wasn't God? Just going about your daily life. Doo 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 doo. Dooby dooby doop 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 doo. Do I got 49 cents for a cinnamon bun? That's how much it used to cost. 49 cents for a 1200 calorie little Debbie cinnamon bun. 49 cent little Debbie cinnamon bun. It gets the job done. You eat 5 of those motherfuckers on a 10-hour day. Say you eat 10, $4.90. Like over 10,000 calories. Yeah. But, you know, if you're working a 14-hour fucking day on a paving crew, or yeah, maybe it's better in the winter. If you're working a 14-hour fucking day on a plowing crew, plowers and pavers, man. What the fuck would we ever do without them? But anyway, it got me to thinking like, God, so yeah, here's the book. That was all preface, here's the book. So what's my plight? Like, I'm totally fucked. Like, it got me to thinking, I'm totally fucked. Why do I still like want good things to happen even though I'm fucked? But it's like God never does the same thing twice. And I know like Jordan Peterson talks about how the books of the Bible are hyperlinked. I prefer the word hypersaturated. Hyperlink is a little bit too much like Robinson Crusoe, like just like lists and things and like this concretiousness where I feel like it's more like hypersaturated or omni-saturated. It blooms and it blooms and it blooms and it blooms. Each bloom in some way resembles the bloom that came before it, but then there's also this extra thing that comes into the next bloom with the next extra thing. So, you know, God, more or less, in the story, so the story goes, and the story has its own logic. Like, even if nothing of it ever happened, the story has a logic, and the logic develops over time. God develops over time. How do you know God develops over time? Because of the flood. I won't get into the apocryphal scripture that I guess you shouldn't call it scripture if it's apocryphal. The apocryphal texts that reference Jesus having killed someone and then brought them back to life. The only thing I'd say about that is it does echo and augment Moses having killed an Egyptian, and it also echoes God, so to speak, having destroyed the earth. God, you know, did the great flood. And then after Noah did the sacrifice, God was like, yeah, I guess I'm not going to do that again. I guess you didn't learn the lesson. And then Moses killed an Egyptian, and then, you know, Moses fled Egypt and all that. Um, and that was kind of a repeat in a way, like God the murderer, Moses the lawgiver, the murderer. And then it was Jesus the murderer in the Apocryphal. But Jesus then brought that person back to life. And I kind of believe it's canonical because of the way that has happened in my own life. Christ kills me over and over again. He always wins. And I always fight him. I feel like there must be certain people like me who, kind of like Thomas the Doubter, who, like, when God gets up in your space, you just resist, you doubt, you're like, you better fucking prove it. I've been lied to so many times. And I kind of feel like for people like us, God eggs us along. He's like, yeah, that's right, bitch, motherfucker, this, that. I don't know. I kind of feel like that's a thing. And it might be a thing on the other side of the boundary between heaven and hell. A new heaven, a new earth. Well, if God's always the same, then heaven must always be the same. But the good book talks about a new heaven and a new earth. A new earth and a new heaven. A new heaven? So wait. I don't want to go to heaven yet? Maybe I want to go to hell. Hang out with all the skanks for a little while. Create a rebellion. Because there are also just souls that get wiped out. If you've done bad things and you hate yourself for it and you're too hard on yourself, you're not too hard on yourself. You have an appointment with hell. What's the benefit of hell? Eternal suffering. Now, I've been using that word eternal suffering up until now. But that's the thing. Hell isn't eternal. God is eternal. The heaven of heavens. That's the thing, too. A lot of the times lately, Christ is King has been trending. But I don't like the Christ is King line or quote. I like King of Peace. And I like King of Kings. Why is Christ the King of Kings? Because he is the King of Peace. When there are no longer kings and there is only peace, there will be Christ will no longer need to be the King of Kings. He will then be the King of Peace, and he will share our crown with us when we are all kings of peace. So that's where I'm at with it. That's my hot take. So yeah, God flooded the earth. And then after it was all over, he said, I'm never doing that again. God learned. God changed. Things changed. I could make an Ellen G. White reference here, but I won't. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's a good one. And God put Job in the whale. once. So God's sitting back thinking, well, I destroyed the world. That didn't work out. I had a little wager with Satan and I put Job in the whale. Or no, Jonah was in the whale. Job just had his life destroyed. I kind of always merge Job and Jonah in my mind. There's something to that. Sometimes the mistakes we make are like, my art teacher used to call it, my high school art teacher used to call it happy little accidents. But it's like, yeah, God destroyed Job's life to win a bet with Satan. And he won. He, she, God, whatever you think about it. In the vernacular, God won a bet with Satan for Job, whose life totally sucked. God, may I serve you? Sure. Ta-da! The worst. Jonah eaten by the whale. But yeah, God never does the same thing twice, but it like repeats themes. So like, I've been eaten by the whale and spit back out. And I've been plugged in the whale's blowhole and then puffed back out. And my days with the whale, my days with the dragon are not over. And I guess the stupidism moral of the story is we've already been flooded, we've already been destroyed, we've already been swallowed by the whale over and over again. We'll be swallowed by the whale again. We'll be spit back out again. Eventually, maybe we'll be eaten, but not before the dragons come. Not before the foundations crumble. And it's a great luxury. It's a great luxury to be afforded the privilege of witnessing the horror. Living with post-traumatic stress disorder is much, much better than perishing in a flurry of senseless chaos. So long as we're still here, we have something to hold on to. We cling to each other. And when there's no one left to cling to, there's nothing left to cling to but to cling to God. And even if you're falling in the pit, even if you have fallen in the pit, stay alive. Someday there's going to be a prison break from hell. Because hell is forever and not eternal. Not all of the prisoners of hell will get out. Some of us will. Like, good people. Demons come from a different place. We confuse where demons come from with the hell that our souls go to. It's different. It's not the same. That's another story for another time. I think I've closed the loop on what I wanted to say. I guess that's just a prayer and a praise, because I don't understand why God has spared my life. I feel like I see glimpses of the beautiful things God does, even in horrible places. Like, I legitimately see silver linings in things that are completely horrific. But I feel like sometimes I even see God's handiwork there. And I just can't believe it.